Official accident reports and eyewitness statements served as the foundation for this video. It is November 12, 2001 in the year. 61 days have passed since the September 11th attacks. The location is New York City's John F. Kennedy International Airport. American Airlines Flight 587 was due to depart New York for Santo Domingo, the capital of the Dominican Republic, at 8 in the morning. One of the regular scheduled flights was this one. Edward States, age 42, was the flight's captain and pilot. Sten Mullen, age 34, was the co-pilot. There were 9 flight attendants and a total of 251 passengers on board. The airplane that would carry out the flight was the Airbus A300. Airport security procedures have significantly strengthened since the September 11th attacks. These extra security measures caused a delay in the trip. The pilots used the command "pooch back" to seek a pushback. The plane took off at precisely 09 RR from gate 22. One of the biggest passenger aircraft in the world, the Boeing 747-400, was parked in front of the Airbus A300, which had begun taxiing to runway 31 left. The American Airlines A300 would take off after this Boeing 747, which was headed for Tokyo. The jumbo jet, a Boeing 747 headed for Tokyo, requested permission to use the runway at 9:10 a.m. from the tower attendant. It was authorized to enter the runway by the tower attendant. Shortly afterward, the tower attendant advised the A300 pilots who were awaiting their turn on the runway that they should exercise caution as there could be wake turbulence following the 747's takeoff. Perhaps you're wondering what wake turbulence is. The air currents that form vortices that are left behind by airplanes are referred to as wake turbulence. Such consecutive takeoffs could put the aircraft in the back in jeopardy. Furthermore, the size of the airplane can affect how strong this turbulence is. The 747's enormous size makes the airflow behind it potentially more hazardous than that of other aircraft. The pilots of the Airbus A300 waiting to take off were told by the tower officer to stay in their spot until the 747 took off. The 747 pilots were given the all-clear to take flight at 09:12. This jumbo jet removed its wheels from the runway and started to rise in less than a minute. This airflow caused a dense airwave behind him, so the co-pilot of the Airbus questioned the captain if they were far enough apart to avoid being affected. In the right seat, the co-pilot would also take off and land. After finishing the takeoff checklist, the pilots gave the engines full power and began to accelerate on the runway. When they had gained enough momentum, they removed their wheels. The two aircraft were separated by 2 minutes. Following takeoff, the tower attendant told the A300 pilots to pass the safety altitude, turn left, and get in touch with the New York department. Next, the pilots got in touch with New York departure. They said they will ascend to a height of 5,000 feet from 1,300 feet. According to the tower officer, climbing was free up to 13,000 feet. The pilots felt a minor shake at this moment when they turned left with the climb, affected by the wake turbulence, the current formed behind the 747 that had taken off first. This was already anticipated, but things were not as they seemed. The airplane made a few faint squeaks as a result of the rocking. After 15 seconds, the aircraft continued to shake slightly and began to bank to the right. When attempting to steady the plane hit by the turbulence, the co-pilot made a grave error and simultaneously depressed the left and right rudders. The term rudder refers to the component of the aircraft's vertical stabilization system that provides direction. Like car pedals, it is operated by pedals beneath the pilot's feet. To stabilize the plane when it was climbing at a high speed, the co-pilot fully depressed one right and one left pedal. He yelled out to the captain for full power at this point because he wanted to give the airplane, which was experiencing turbulence, additional power. "Are you okay?" the captain asked the co-pilot. He kept applying the remaining bit of pressure on the pedals after the talk. The co-pilot shouted out to the captain once more, but the captain refused to increase the plane's speed. "Be patient," the skipper instructed the co-pilot. The co-pilot insisted on running the engines at maximum power. Something amazing occurred at this point. The plane's vertical stabilizer system was also detached from the tail, in addition to the radar. After that, the pilots were at a loss for what to do, due to the fact that the tail and vertical stabilizer, two essential components that maintain the aircraft in the air, were not attached. Put simply, one of the vital organs of the airplane was cut off. As a result, the plane, which was at 2,400 feet, started to descend quickly and erratically. Both engines were severed from the wings during the uncontrollably falling object. Sadly, not long after takeoff, the aircraft crashed into a residential area. Out of the 260 persons on board, none of them survived the crash. 5 residences in the vicinity of the jet crash also began to catch fire. They had no idea that the impact of the plane had killed 5 individuals on the ground. In U.S. history, this was the second largest plane disaster. People were scared of this occurring once more after the September 11th attacks. A team from the National Transportation Safety Board was dispatched right away to thoroughly investigate the collision. The investigators saw this Airbus 300 took off right after the 747, and it was the first thing they detected. The airflow the aircraft left behind caused turbulence, according to investigators. However, this wasn't the primary reason behind the mishap. The pilots were used to this. Numerous aircraft each day. A lot of airplanes experience this every day. The plane's damaged vertical stabilizer was eventually discovered in the water by investigators. Away from the wreckage in the town, they also discovered the engines, which had been cut off from the wing prior to the accident. Investigators received important hints about the crash's cause from the stabilizer they discovered in the water. However, what was the crash's actual cause? Investigators heard what sounded like an explosion when they listened to the voice recording in the cockpit. They were able to hear the positions of the pilot and the captain through the voice recordings that were discovered in the second black box. Extreme stress was placed on the tail by the co-pilot's lightning-fast responses when he immediately depressed the left and right pedals after takeoff. The airplane's components, which are often composed of composite material and are rather strong, were unable to tolerate the constant stress overload. It was already impossible to save the aircraft from this point on. I appreciate you seeing my video. I hope my video was enjoyable. Please feel free to share your thoughts with me. I hope everyone has a safe flight.